Good morning, guys. So I have Malik and Achina, the usual suspects, but this morning we also have Mami Awinado with us in the studio. Good morning, Mami, and you're welcome. Awesome.
Special good morning to Mami.
Yes, I have. Do you understand how it feels to have another woman in this studio? Oh my God, it's amazing. But let's do the headlines.
Let's start with the Business and Financial Times. GMA signs MOU with Danish counterpart. Ghana Maritime Authority signs MOU with Danish counterpart to boost e-navigation. Also on the front page, the lead story on the front page of the BNFT is "We won't go to IMF again." That's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta assuring. Prosecute culprits of bank's failure. Largest vessel cause at Takra Depot. Back page of the BNFT. Osafu Mafu demands value for money on all engineering projects. Nkukru Bite residents denounce assault on PDS staff.
Okay, and the front page of the Daily Graphic, we have economic management post IMF bailout. Let's build consensus, Ken Ofori-Atta. And 4 regions pilot malaria vaccine in April. We have another story here that talks about the 4 million NCA case. The suspect shared $500,000 prosecution witness. So the case is in court. And we have another story here, the UTAG's call on the UEW's VC Council chairman to resign baseless UTAG local chapter.
Go Straight Business.
UTAG, that's UTAG. University
UTAG,
Teachers Association of Ghana.
So yes.
Okay, so I will go to the Go Straight Business. Ghana needs to do more to improve human capital. We also have expand opportunities for female entrepreneurs. We have government secures $100 million for Ghana Armed Forces infrastructural facelift. Again, government targets central database for employment opportunities. It's going to be one-stop shop for job openings. The last two, 4G mobile data competition heats up. And finally, IFS suggests new statute for GNPC.
The Ghanaian Observer newspaper, NDC fights EC over new voters register. University of Education Winnipeg violence. SRC fingers respected community members. Fixing Mahama's broken economy. That's Finance Minister saying. MP supports the legalization of Okada. And Akufo-Addo leaves for US, Cuba.
And for the Daily Guide, we have government probes CD4 and how ex-NCA board shared $4 million. We have our story, of course, again about the Akufo-Addo leaving US for Cuba. We have another story about the newest minister sworn in, and then a queen mother who commits suicide in a cemetery.
I'll go with the finder. Minister explains CD4, blames it on structural rigidities and speculation. Again, mobile industry strategizes on disaster preparedness and response. We also have invest in robust cyber security system. Business leaders told. Lastly, carpenter killed by hit and run driver.
The Chronicle newspaper, police lab boss girls caught over failure to produce semen test results, but official record indicates he was served late. Also on the front page of the Chronicle, man 35 jailed 15 years for defiling stepdaughter. Ghana Immigration Service post in ruins. Comptroller promises transformation, and we will ensure discipline in financial sector. Again, that's Finance Minister.
Okay, and then for the new weekend crusading guide, we have Atinka MD grabs most promising media personality award. We have Boss unleashes thugs on managers. Suspicious workers petition board chair to probe, but MD says no comment. And then we have Akumfi Edukwama gets new chief. And
anyone has a friend.
I handed over the title. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're working on that part. Then Kokobite Cutlass wounds PDS staff receives 4,000 CDs compensation, and only NDC can save Ghana back then.
Okay, I have the last two papers. The Independent MP calls for legalization of Okada. It wasn't deliberate. We will recall a fresh IPAC meeting. EC tells NDC. If I can just add the Statesman. The Daily Statesman says, Baumia to grace Kumasi MPP Youth Conference, and also back on track of Ofori-Atta hails success of economic recovery. And lastly, President committed to good governance. DI Director cites RTI as further evidence.
My last paper is the Ghanaian Times newspaper, which has the bipartisan committee suggested by the finance minister to deal with the depreciating value of the currency, the local currency. But also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, clamping down on illegal mining cost $200 million. That's a deputy lands minister saying. 8 armed robbers grabbed for stealing air conditioners. Back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, World Bank pledges more support for agri sector. President to launch medical drone center in Ejumako.
Right, thank you. Malik, let's start with your first story, which is Ken Ofori-Atta has been speaking, and he says we will not go to IMF again.
Yes, the finance minister is assuring that we will not go to the IMF again. That means we won't be back at the IMF for the 17th time. Since 1965, we've been to the IMF 16 times. The last one being the extended credit facility agreement, which we reached in 2015. According to the government at the time, this was done for policy credibility, because the government itself had instituted some domestic measures to deal with the slow in the growth of the economy and related matters. So we went to the IMF seeking policy credibility. That was one of the issues that generated heated exchanges yesterday on the floor of Parliament, when the finance minister suggested that the government went there because we needed some money to show up the economy. And Fifi Kwete, who was deputy finance minister at some point, said that it was not right that the finance minister would suggest that the purpose for which we went there was a bailout, which was the $918 million that we got from this extended credit facility. But the finance minister was in Parliament, and the purpose for which he was there was to make a statement to Parliament on the extended credit facility agreement, the 3 billion euro bond which we just issued last week, and of course the foreign exchange depreciation that the city is currently suffering. Of course, there's some recovery, but that recovery has slowed down, and the city appears to be losing value again. These were the matters that the finance minister spoke about yesterday. He spoke about how the economy is doing well from 2017. Given some of the policies that they've introduced, growth has rebounded strongly. He spoke about 6.1% growth in the last quarter of 2018, 8.1% growth in 2017 compared to 3.7% in 2016. He says this shows strong growth in the economy, and all the indices indicate that the economy is on a trajectory which should make all Ghanaians happy. He said we feel good about where we are.
I see.
Of course, the minority disagree with him. The minority spokespersons on finance, Ase Kadongo, Fifi Kwete, Atuforsen, all three of them lined up and argued forcefully that the finance minister's reflection of the status of the economy is not exact, and that a lot of the money that we borrowed, some of it went into, we didn't put it in capital expenditure, we put it into consumption, which they said was not good for the economy. I'm sure later when we are doing the main discussions, all of these issues will come up.
Yes, and I think ultimately it is the Ghanaian who will be able to say that, Ghana is doing good for us at the moment. But Mame, tell us about the malaria vaccinations.
Yes, so pretty much in 4 regions, this vaccination is going to be piloted in April. And the basic background here is that 600,000 people die every year from malaria. And 90% happen to be in sub-Saharan Africa, and 83% happen to be children. And so Ghana has responded to a call by the World Health Organization to show an interest in this vaccine. And so it's going to be launched in April in the Brongahafo region, in the Volta region, Upper East region, and the Central region.
Right.
Yes.
And that sounds good.
Oh, yes, pretty much. And it will be for kids between 6 months and 2 years old.
Okay.
And it's in a 4-dose process. So it's 4 different doses that the kids would have to take. And it's being funded by Gavi, the World Health Organization, of course, to an extent, the government of Ghana.
Right.
Yes, and they are promising that these are potent vaccines.
Does it say if it's lifelong, if it gives lifelong immunity?
Well, not necessarily. It doesn't say that, but
what
the hope is that it would do that as a vaccine.
Or it would reduce the
Yes.
the numbers and
of contracting.
Yes, right. Okay, well, thank you for that. Achina?
Yep.
Yes, Ghana to benefit from $15 billion.
There's good news because, as a country, we have about 2 million housing deficit.
Mm-hmm.
So Ghana is going to benefit from a $15 billion US dollars housing package, and actually it's coming from the United Nations Office for Project Services, and it's going to be in partnership with Sustainable Housing Solution. It's not just for Ghana, it's for other countries, including Kenya and India.
But the 15 billion is for Ghana, or the 15 billion is for the whole project?
Whole package.
So how much is Ghana getting, does it say?
That is not isolated from the figure. But what we know is that as a country, we will get about 100,000 housing units.
Okay.
So that will be taking care of the 15 billion.
Is this in addition or minus the houses that's out the Dawinya Road going that there's nobody living in?
No, this completely new housing unit that is going to be provided. And it's expected that this obviously will provide some jobs in terms of those who will be working on the project, and also some financial institutions that will help obviously to bring in the money that will be used for it. We know that during the last budget statement, the finance minister actually hinted that government is setting up about $1 billion housing fund, and it is also hoped that this is going to, as it were, clear some of the remaining slums in the country. He cited Nima, but they also made a point that this is not actually going to dislocate any of the residents who are currently in Nima. They also have said that the Ghana Armed Forces in particular, they're also going to give them special housing units. And if you saw some of the review that we did, it was hinted that the government has already secured $100 million for the Ghana Armed Forces housing unit for them. And we also know that government made that promise during the budget review that housing units that were started by previous governments actually are going to be completed. The point for me, as I always say, is that many of these housing units, to what extent is the ordinary person, those who sleep in front of the kiosks, those who sleep in the streets, going to benefit? Because actually, even if you make a housing unit 1,000 Ghana cedis, they can't afford.
There's still a lot of people who can't afford, yes. Malik, tell us about the NDC and the EC again.
Yeah, so the opposition National Democratic Congress is opposing proposals by the Electoral Commission to compile another electoral rule, another voters register for the 2020 elections. And we know that the Electoral Commission sent out this communique in which it listed a number of things it's going to do, amongst them the compilation of a new voters register for the 2020 elections. The NDC says this, whilst it was mentioned in passing at the Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting, IPAC meeting, that this was not extensively discussed to the extent that the Electoral Commission would then issue a communique saying it's going to compile another electoral register. The Director of Elections, Bid Ziedeng, is quoted by the Ghanaian Observer newspaper as saying the NDC does not endorse the proposal to develop a new voters register to replace the existing one. We do not support the compilation of a new voters register because there is not enough grounds for it. And he went on to talk about the provisions of the law, the fact that the current register must have been 10 years old before you can compile another register, and this register will be 10 years old in 2020. He does not think there's a basis for us to be talking about compiling a new register. And I'm thinking, as far back as when I became politically aware, the voters register has always been a bone of contention between the two political parties, especially the two political parties, NDC, MPP. Every time there are arguments about whether the voters register is clean enough to be used to conduct elections. I remember 2008, the opposition NDC then argued forcefully that the voters register was bloated. As soon as they came into election, they didn't have too many problems with it. Then the MPP, which was in government, then didn't have problems. In 2008, all of a sudden started having problems
when they were in opposition.
When they were in opposition about the register being bloated. Then they advocated forcefully for a biometric register. Of course, we know that biometric register itself had minors, because in the 2016 election, one of the sticking points was, what do you do with the minors on the electoral roll? At the time, there were suggestions that a new register was required. Remember Dr. Bawomia's millions of people on the more than 1 million people on the register who were foreigners and were not supposed to be on the register. Remember the Abu Ramadan cases, which went to the Supreme Court about persons who use the NHIS card as proof of citizenship to register as voters.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court struck that down, that it was not sufficient proof of citizenship, and therefore those names ought to be removed from the electoral roll. All of that argument. Remember that Johnson Asidin Ketia in 2016 said that as far as he was concerned, if there were minors on the electoral roll, at the time that the rule was compiled, by 2016 they would have attained maturation, and therefore there was no need to open it up for another compilation and then create room for more people to bring in minors to register again.
Yeah.
We are back to that argument. But
it seems to be a recurring argument, and depending on
who is in opposition. The good thing is that this time it is the NDC which is in a position which is saying that we don't need a new register. The one we have is good enough.
Okay.
If I should just add to it, I personally think that it's about time our Electoral Commission gets a public relations consultant or an outfit that is very sophisticated and robust. They've come under a lot of attacks, and for good reason and also for bad reason. A lot of circumstances around the appointment in particular, and many people would like to one way or the other take swipes at them. It is for this reason that I feel that the commissioners who are competent in their field may not necessarily be competent in public responses and public communication.
Yeah.
They will need to have that. Other than that, when they make the communication directly themselves, for example, if you look at the response of the electoral commissioner herself during the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election, she was directly taken on by Kodio by some of her expressions and the way she did it. It became as if it was a banter between the two, when actually all that they were saying was the same thing. They all admit that there were problems, except that they were all situating it at different angles. But this, a communications person would do it with finesse, with flexibility, and it will look beautiful.
But anyway, my last point on this is, so at the point that we are compiling national ID and you are going to register every citizen, we at the same time want to compile another voters register.
Yes, with
why
facial
don't you just
recognition.
register everybody,
at the
issue
same
everybody
time
with a card, and then those who are 18 years and above, just give them
automatically
go
into
vote.
that makes
why
sense.
do you want to spend money to do these?
Because we want to spend money.
Oh.
Yes. You know that already. Mami, yes, so some new ministers have been sworn in.
Yes, for the 6 newly created regions. And I mean, with the story, pretty much you have some of the new ministers' names mentioned. Ministers like Solomon Bois for the Northeast region, Kofi Amwako for the Bono East, Kinsley A. Jedu for Western North, and Salifu Barima for Savannah. But what jumps out here is that the president makes...
mention my regional minister, Hafiz Bin Sali, Upper West.
Oh, okay,
right.
Hafiz, that's right, that's
All
right.
right,
Okay.
Mami.
Yes.
Good morning, sir, wherever you are.
Yes, so forgive me for that omission. So, but pretty much the story just draws on the fact that the president was talking about disloyalty to him is pretty much disloyalty to the state. And so he's admonishing all the deputy ministers sworn in to not work against their ministers, to more or less be compliant and be cooperative, because that will not be tolerated any form of...
Compliant and cooperative
Well,
in spite of, or compliant and cooperative...
So compliant is pretty much trying to to paraphrase, but that's to say that he's talking more about don't undermine.
Okay,
the
don't
work
sabotage. So
Yes.
in a negative way,
Yes.
not don't challenge or don't make sure that things are right or don't...
Well, you see, the thing is, that's tricky. You see what I'm
Okay,
trying to
so
say?
it wasn't
Because
clear.
undermining could be perceived differently by... I could still be trying to challenge, trying to speak about something you're doing that is not right.
And you may feel like I'm
You're being
undermining, but
exactly.
may not
Yeah,
be.
but
So it's
if
a
you
bit
have
ambiguous.
$1 million, you can undermine your minister and risk losing your job.
There will always be there will always be problems between regime loyalty and loyalty to the state. So I think that's pretty much about
Yes.
that.
All right, Achina, your story. Mobile industry strategize on disaster response and
Sure.
yeah.
All over us in this world, we have experiencing a lot of climatic conditions which is adversely affecting the countries that these things have been happening. We know what is going on in the South African country. So back home here in Ghana, our people are taking a cue and they want to prepare towards it. So the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunication and the National Communication Authority have put together the stakeholders who are actually involved anytime we have a disaster. So we're talking about government agencies, the police service, the NADMO, the fire service, if you like, the prisons and all these uniformed people who normally are the first point of call whenever we have disaster. They are pursuing a program in the United Kingdom Telecommunications Academy, which is aimed at giving them certification, but more than that, to have synergy among them, and also to conduct simulation exercises to test their responses if Ghana will be ready anytime there is a disaster.
All right, thank you for that. And Malik, a man has been jailed for 15 years for defiling his stepdaughter.
So this 37-year-old man, James Ako, he has been sentenced to 15 years imprisonment with hard labor because he himself pleaded guilty to defiling his stepdaughter, who is 15 years. When he appeared before the court, he appealed to the judge to have mercy on him because he was a first-time offender. He had defied this girl multiple times, and his wife wasn't aware. The girl's mother was not aware until the girl got pregnant. And then, because each time he defied the girl, he warned her not to tell anyone, and so she too didn't say anything until she got pregnant. When the mother confronted her, she then pointed out that her stepdad was the one who defiled her, who was responsible for the pregnancy. So the mother lodged a complaint with the police, and the man was arrested. He appeared before court, and then he pleaded guilty and pleaded for clemency as well. Now, the presiding judge over in the court, Abena Ajindoku, asked him what he saw attractive in a 15-year-old girl, and he couldn't answer. All he did was to plead for clemency. Eventually, when the 15-year sentence was passed in the court, according to the story, there was uproar in the court because the public thought that the 15 years was too heavy on the man, and the man himself, according to the story, opened his mouth in disbelief and dismay. After the sentence was...
I think it's a very good deterrent.
After the sentence
very,
was
very
passed.
good
But
deterrent.
still in court, there's a police lab boss who failed to appear in court because this is the police lab. This is the matter involving the GPHA, the Ghana Ports Harbours lady, Josephine Tando, and Asante, who was murdered in her home. Now, you remember that her driver and her houseboy were picked up because the investigators saw semen.
Yes.
They found semen on her. So the court, the investigators wanted some tongue swabs of these two suspects. The swabs were done, and the head of the Forensic Science Laboratory of the Ghana Police Service was supposed to appear before the court on the 28th, yesterday, but he didn't come.
But this is really just to come and give us the results
just
of that
come and
DNA.
give the results. He didn't come. And the presiding judge sought to find out why. Mrs. Akosi Anochua Ajipon wanted to find out why that didn't happen. And then the police prosecutors themselves said that the head of the Forensic Science Lab was informed only 2 days before the hearing. Meanwhile, a subpoena was issued on the 14th. A subpoena was issued on the 14th for the man to appear on the 28th. But the subpoena was only sent to him on the 26th.
But aside from that, Malik, they took this, the semen. They took, at the beginning when we started telling this story, they took the semen from the site. So I would assume that they would have tested it and that report would be lying down anyway.
Yeah, well.
So are they saying they haven't done the test? Are they saying that they've
done this
disposed
one?
of this?
It's a swipe that the investigators asked for.
So just finding the people sticking the cotton swab in their mouths, getting the cells.
They have done. And then the head of the forensic lab was supposed to come and present this before the court. Even though he was subpoenaed on the 14th, the subpoena reached him only on the 26th, 2 days to the hearing.
Wow.
So he couldn't come.
Wow, 12 days later.
So the judge issued another subpoena for him to come.
Unbelievable. Mami, I'm coming to you. There's a queen mother who committed suicide in a cemetery?
Yes, so this is Nana Somfua Dura she's the third, the queen mother of Aswano, a community in the Wenchi municipality. And so her body was found hanging on a tree in the Droboso cemetery. And it was apparently the assemblyman of the area, Opoku Eje, who found her body. But the interesting thing is that no one is really saying anything. They've only confirmed that yes, she's the one, but as to any background to even give an understanding of what could have led to this, no one is speaking. The only thing is that they're talking about the fact that they had to perform quick rites to have her buried as soon as possible.
Oh, right. Wow. That's a very sad story.
Yes, it is.
Achina, MP calls for legalization of Okada.
Exactly.
In 1 minute.
Okada was first in Parliament in 2012 when actually was banned, but this time it's also back in Parliament in 2019, and it was brought by the MP for Asawasi, Honorable Mubarak Muntaka, and he's saying that Okada provides jobs and Okada is not inherently criminal, so we should allow Okada to be legalized for the good that it does for society.
Right. Oh, nicely done in 40
Like the
seconds.
way I do it.
Well, yeah, please. Coming up is the online news review. Is brought to you by Zenith Bank in your best interest and Goyle Good Energy. Now, the Zenith Health Walk is back again. It's happening on Saturday, March 30th. That's tomorrow at the Zenith Bank head office located on the Independence Avenue. Time is 6 a.m. prompt. Don't be left out. Join customers and staff for a good dose of exercise and lots of fun. Remember, it's the Zenith Health Walk happening at 6 a.m. prompt tomorrow at the Zenith Bank head office. Save the date. See you there. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. Now, Goyle, your multiple CIMG award winner and #1 OMC, salutes all Ghanaians as we celebrate our proud history and heritage. Your freedom comes with choosing Goyle. So just continue to patronize our quality fuel, superior lubricants, reliable gas supplies, and other trusted services, and you will feel the good energy. Together with you, our customers, we have supported the nation, and together with you, we will continue the partnership to grow our economy. Be a patriot every day. By Goyle. Let's grow Ghana. Goyle Good Energy. Goyle Yenara Yedi. Now, My Joy Online is reporting defunct Men's Gold customers to begin series of demos from April 2nd. So the customers of Men's Gold from April 2nd will begin to demonstrate to demand that their locked up principal investments be released. The Coalition of Aggrieved Customers of Men's Gold Limited have said in a press statement issued March 27th that its members, about 6,000 people, will embark on continuous picketing at the premises of the Yoko and Organized Crime. The Organized Crime Office, the SEC, the Attorney General Department, and Jubilee House. Okay, so they're going to be picketing at about 4 locations. And they said this action has become necessary due to state actors' lackadaisical attitude. This Men's Gold thing has gone on for a while. Osafo Mafo urges engineers to conduct value for money audits of projects. That's also on My Joy Online. Adom Online is reporting lady bathed with acid solicits 1,000 Ghana cedis to undergo surgery. Now, the father of Kate Adu, she's a 23-year-old mobile money vendor. She was bathed with acid by 2 men who robbed her on. I mean, if you're going to rob her, do you have to pour acid on her as well? Has disclosed that his daughter needs 1,000 Ghana cedis to undergo surgery. According to the father, Ochame Kwame Ankom, their inability to pay the 1,000 Ghana has delayed the surgery that needs to be carried out urgently. In an interview with Adom News, the father of the victim stated that the doctors need the amount before they can proceed. If you'd like to help out, you can contact us here on Joy FM. BBC.com is reporting Boeing sued over Ethiopian Airlines crash. Now, a lawsuit against the airplane maker Boeing has been filed in a U.S. federal court by the family of a man who died in the Ethiopian Airlines crash earlier this month. If you remember, all 157 crew and passengers were killed in that report. On Wednesday, Boeing announced fixes to the control system linked to the 2 crashes, and investigators are yet to determine the cause of the accidents. Thank you very much for joining us, Malik, Mame, and Achina. And I'm sure you guys at some point will be back on the show, especially when we talk about what happened yesterday in Parliament. This is Joy 99.7 FM. Stay tuned.